So hello and welcome back yet again to Charles Dickens's book A Tale of Two Cities, where I'm really not sure how we can have so many chapters when it seemed like the last chapter should have been the happy ending. But no, we have, let's see, this is chapter 7 and it goes until ah, chapter 15. So we've got quite a few more chapters. I guess there's going to be a plot twist. This is going to be a short chapter, but then the next chapter is a good deal longer. So we're just going to have a short night tonight, which is probably good because I am watching as it's now raining harder. Thankfully, still just rain, but for the sake of brevity, I'm going to read this chapter and then go look at the radar again. Again, hoping for just rain and that we keep our power, but in a abundance of caution, getting several chapters ahead. So, we're going to jump back into Book 3 of A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens with Chapter 7, A Knock at the Door. I have saved him. It was not another of the dreams in which he had often come back. He was really here. And yet his wife trembled, and a vague but heavy fear was upon her. All around was so thick and dark, the people so passionately revengeful and fitful, the innocent were so constantly put to death on vague suspicion and black malice. It was so impossible to forget that many as blameless as her husband and as dear to others as he was to her, every day shared the fate from which he had been clutched, that her heart could not be as lightened of its load as she felt it should be. The shadows of the wintry afternoon were beginning to fall, and even now the dreadful carts were rolling through the streets. Her mind pursued them, looking for him among the condemned, and then she clung closer to his real presence and trembled all the more. Her father, cheering her, showed a compassionate superiority to this woman's weakness which was wonderful to see. No garret, no shoemaking, no 105 North Tower now. He had accomplished the task he had set himself. His promise was redeemed. He had saved Charles. Let them all lean upon him. Their housekeeping was of a very frugal kind, not only because that was the safest way of life, invoking the least offense to the people, but because they were not rich. And Charles, throughout his imprisonment, had had to pay heavily for his bad food and his guard and towards the living of the poorer prisoners. Partly on this account, and partially to avoid a domestic spy, they kept no servant. The citizen and citizeness who acted as porters at the courtyard gate rendered them the occasional service, and Jerry, almost wholly transferred to them by Mr. Lorry, had become their daily retainer and had his bed there every night. It was the ordinance of the Republic, one and indivisible, of liberty, equality, fraternity, or death, that on the door or doorpost of every house the name of every inmate must be legibly subscribed in letters of a certain size at a certain convenient height from the ground. Mr. Jerry Cruncher's name therefore duly embellished the doorpost down below, and as the afternoon shadows deepened, the owner of that name himself appeared, from overlooking a painter who the Dr. Manette had employed to add to the list the name of Charles Evrémonde, hereby called Darnay. In the universal fear and distrust that darkened the time, all the usual harmless ways of life were changed. In the doctor's little household, as in a very many others, the articles of daily consumption that were wanted were purchased every evening in small quantities and at various small shops. To avoid attracting notice and to give as little occasion as possible for talk and envy was the general desire. For some months past, Miss Pross and Mr. Cruncher had discharged the office of purveyors, the former carrying the money, the latter the basket. Every afternoon, at about the time when the public lamps were lighted, they fared forth upon this duty, and made and brought home such purchases as were needful. Although Miss Pross, through her long association with a French family, might have known as much of their language as her own, if she had had a mind, she had no mind in that direction. Consequently, she knew no more of that nonsense, as she called it, than Mr. Cruncher did. So her manner of marketing was to plump a noun substantive at the head of a shopkeeper without any introduction in the nature of an article, and, if it happened not to be the name of the thing she wanted, to then look around for that thing, lay hold of it, and hold on to it until the bargain was concluded. She always made a bargain by holding up as a statement of its just price one finger less than the merchant held up, whatever his number might be. "Now, Mr. Cruncher," said Miss Pross, whose eyes were red with felicity, "if you are ready, I am." Jerry hoarsely professed himself to be at Miss Pross's service. He had worn off all of his rust long ago, but nothing would file his spiky head down. "There's all manner of things wanted," said Miss Pross, "and we shall have a precious time of it. We want wine among the rest. Nice toasts these redheads will be drinking wherever we buy it." "It'll be the same to your knowledge, miss, I should think," said Jerry, "whether they drink your health or the old un's." "Who's he?" said Miss Pross. Mr. Cruncher, with some diffidence, explained himself as meaning Old Nick. "Ha!" said Miss Pross. "It doesn't need an interpreter to explain the meaning of these creatures. They have but one, and it is midnight murder and mischief." "Hush, my dear. Pray be cautious." "Oh, yes, I'll be cautious," said Miss Pross. "But I may say it amongst ourselves that I do hope there will be no oniony and tobacco-y smotherings in the forms of embracings going on in the streets. Now, Ladybird, don't you stir far from that fire until I come back. Take care of the dear husband that you have recovered, and don't move your pretty head from his shoulder as you have it now till you see me again. May I ask a question, though, Dr. Manette, before I go?" "I think you may," said the doctor with a smile. "For gracious sake, we have quite enough of all that silly talk," said Miss Pross. "Hush," said Lucy. "Well, my sweet," said Miss Pross, nodding her head, "the short and long of it is this. I am a subject of His Most Gracious Majesty King George the Third." Miss Pross curtsied at the name. "And as such my maxim is, confound their politics, frustrate their knavish tricks. On him our hopes we fix. God save the king." Mr. Cruncher, then, in an access of loyalty, growlingly repeated the words after Miss Pross, like someone at a church. "I'm glad that you have so much of the Englishman in you, though I wish you had never taken that cold in your voice," said Miss Pross. "But the question, Dr. Manette, is there—" It was Miss Pross's way to affect to make light of anything that was a great anxiety to them all, and to come at it in this choice of a manner. "Is there any prospect, yet, of our getting out of this place?" I fear not yet. It would be dangerous for Charles still." "Ho-hum," said Miss Pross cheerfully, repressing a sigh as she glanced at her darling's golden hair. "Well, then, we must have patience and wait, that's all. We must hold up our heads and fight low, as my brother Solomon used to say. Now, Mr. Cruncher, don't you move, my lady bird." And they went out, leaving Lucy and her husband, her father and her child next to the bright fire. Mr. Lorry was expected back presently from the banking house. Miss Pross had lighted the lamp, but had put aside in a corner that they might enjoy the firelight undisturbed. Little Lucy sat by her grandfather with her hands clasped on his arm, and he, in a tone not rising much above a whisper, began to tell her a story of a great and powerful fairy who had opened a prison wall and let out a captive who had once done the fairy a service. Everything was subdued and quiet, and Lucy was more at ease than she had been. "What is that?" she cried at once. "My dear," said her father, stopping in his story and laying his hand upon hers, "command yourself. What a disordered state you are in! The least thing, no, nothing at all startles you. You, my dear, you are not being your father's daughter." "I thought, my father," said Lucy, excusing herself with a pale face and a shaking voice, "that I heard strange feet upon the stairs." "My love, the stairs are still as death." But as he said that, they heard a blow struck to the door. "Father, father, what can this be? Hide, Charles." "My child," said the doctor, "I have saved him. What weakness is this, my dear? Let me get to the door." And he took the lamp in his hand, and he crossed the two intervening outer rooms and opened the door. A rude clattering of feet over the floors, and 4 rough men in red caps, armed with sabers and pistols, entered the room. "The citizen Evrémonde, called Darnay," said the first. Who seeks him?" said Charles. "I seek him. We seek him. I know you, Evrémonde. I saw you before the tribunal today, and you are again a prisoner of the Republic." The 4 men surrounded him, right where he stood with his wife and child clinging to him. And we have a picture of it. "Tell me, how and why am I again a prisoner?" "It is enough that you return straight to the concierge, and you will know tomorrow. You are summoned for tomorrow." Dr. Manette, whom this visitation had so turned into stone that he stood with the lamp in his hand as if he were a statue made to hold it, moved as these words were spoken and put the lamp down, confronting the speaker and talking to him, not urgently, but taking him by the loose front of his red wool shirt, said, You know him, you have said. Do you know me?" "Yes, I know you, citizen doctor." "We all know you, citizen doctor," said the other 3. The doctor looked from one to another and said in a lower voice after a pause, "Will you answer his question to me? How did this happen?" "Citizen doctor," said the first reluctantly, "he has been denounced to the section of Saint Antoine. This citizen," he said, pointing out a second who had entered, "is from Saint Antoine." That citizen nodded his head and said, "He is accused by Saint Antoine." "Of what?" said the doctor. "Citizen doctor," said the first man, "ask no more. If the Republic demands sacrifices from you, without a doubt, you, as a good patriot, will be happy to make them. The Republic before all. The people are supreme. Evrémonde, we are pressed." "One word," said the doctor. "Will you tell me who denounced him?" "It is against the rules," said the first. "But you can ask him of Saint Antoine here." The doctor turned his eyes upon that man, who was moving uneasily, tugging at his beard a little, and at length said, "Well, truly it is against the rule, but he is denounced, and gravely, by the citizen and citizeness Defarge, and by one other." "What other?" "Do you ask, citizen doctor?" "Yes." "Then," said the man of Saint Antoine with a strange look, "you'll learn tomorrow, and for now I will stay silent." And that is the end of the chapter. That was an unsatisfying plot twist. I kind of figured poor Charles was going to end up back in prison, but I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting just the Defarges to do it. I don't know. I kind of was hoping that they would have a little more pity than that. I guess not. I guess I was wrong. And so with that strange plot twist, we leave it tonight. Again, sorry this was a shorter chapter. Tomorrow's will be much longer, provided I have power. And might do that chapter later on tonight, if we still have power, before my live stream. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed that short chapter, and I will see you, hopefully, tomorrow.